Okay, so wow, in the last what 4 or 5 days, we came back to DDO, created tons of videos for the individual quest, and along the way, every time there's some kind of a learning point or a detail that'll make a difference for you or a gameplay tip, I tried to share my insights on this stuff. Even though I'm not like a hardcore 20-year veteran, like some of the folks who've been playing the game for a long time, or some of the other content creators who've been making stuff for a long time, there's a lot of elements I think would be beneficial in all the different videos that I made. But I thought today, what we're going to do as a summary, we're getting close to hitting level 5. Um, 50 tips or 50 key learnings that will help you in the beginning. So if you don't have the time to watch all 50 videos or something, I'm going to pull the good ones out here, right? And we're just going to be staying around the background while we kind of go through these. The number one thing I would say for most people in the beginning, when they get, if you're playing on a 4K machine, you're a gamer, one of the things that will throw you off the bat is a resolution. If you play on high resolution, the UI will be small. And even though Lord of the Rings Online, also developed by, maintained slash developed by Standing Stone Games, does allow you to rescale the UI globally or rescale the size of your hotbars, DDO hasn't gotten that yet. Even though they've gone to 64-bit servers, that is something they really should do. They really should do that. But we're in 2560 by 1440. If you've played Black Desert Online or some other 4K games that are pretty intense, and if you play Xbox and stuff on your TV, a lot of times these games are scaling up. On really good console games, they actually even go from 1080 all the way to 4K, and they're scaling up with AI. And there's also a bunch of NVIDIA elements that can do this kind of stuff. But so if you're going to play and you're like, well, the UI, I can't see it in 4K. I want to play in 4K. I'm stubborn about it. Try playing in 1440p. And when you refer to P, that's the second set of the two numbers, 2560 by 1440p. Leave your aspect ratio at 16 by 9. Turn everything else to max, and you might be pleasantly surprised with how things actually look and run. It doesn't look bad at all. Okay, so um, moving the UI. This is something we talked about in the very beginning. Any UI element can be moved at any time, no matter where you are. The easiest way to do that is to move your mouse over the top. I found that grabbing things from the top, when you get this little arcadal point thing, and just let go of it, it's not going to snap. It's not going to end up in the wrong place. You can put stuff on top of other things, yep, right. But just grab the top element and move things. The next one, I strongly believe in playing with the action mode camera like this, not playing with the World of Warcraft camera mode like this. So the difference is that in the action mode, you have this little round reticle, circle reticle at all times. So, moving the mouse left and right and up and down does all mouse look, and then all, strafe left and strafe right, forward and backward, whether you're WASD or arrow keys like me. When you need to interact with something, I've got that bound to my middle mouse button. So the trick is that when you're going into the key binding menu, the names of the keys are counterintuitive. And so, and don't worry about this default FPS style, classic, et cetera, et cetera. What you want to know and remember is this, okay? Left mouse button is button 0. So think of it as starting with 0 and then going 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And a typical, like I use a Logitech Hero mouse. I don't use a Razer Naga like my wife does. She's crazy. Hers is like a cell phone. Attack button 1 is considered the right mouse button, right? And then it's what's very funny about button 1 I use for the DDO classic steer. So if I'm holding down the right mouse button, it's like World of Warcraft or EverQuest, right? If I let go and I press the middle mouse button, then it's bound, and I just press the middle mouse button to release the mouse again. You get really, really good at doing that if you play Neverwinter. Neverwinter's a game where you have the bound mouse no matter what, etc. So left mouse button or LMB is 0, right mouse button is 1, middle mouse button is 2, and the button on the side is 3. So I use the button on the side to press and hold to do all my attacks. I'm pressing and holding. I let go of it and I stop attacking. I press the middle mouse button to bound mouse look for running around, aiming, shooting, and I can press the button on the side of my mouse while I'm panning around. And if I want to interact with something, like maybe click on an NPC or do something different with an inventory item, I just release the mouse and I rebind it again and move around again. So 0 left mouse button, right mouse button is 1, middle mouse button is 2, side button is 3. And you want to bind a key to block. The main reason is not really because you want to block things, but because that's how you're going to dismount your horse. Because if you bind your key to your horse. Let's just go over here, right? If you bind the key to your horse and you press that key again, you actually dismount and remount yet again. And I get interrupted because I walked here. So let's say I get on my horse, right? I've got about F12, the key I like to use, and you're running around, you press F12 again, you actually dismount and then mount back up again. So what you want to do is bind your block key to something that you can use to dismount. That's what you're actually going to use to dismount all the time. All right, that's what is that? Number 3. Okay, number 4. There are keys that you will use often. Be sure to bind keys to buttons that you're used to from your other games. You're going to use these keys like so often. M for map. I use M for map, not for the world map. Yes, you can press this minus key and bring up a big world map and do things like that, but M for map. And the map, of course, you're going to be moving it a lot. If you watch me play, sometimes I stretch it out, take a look, find the latest quest, and I'll put it back. It's basically like a mini map. Why do I say it this way? Because the mini map itself, you can't rescale it and it's too small. So it's basically taking the mini map, that's a little round radial one, turning this into a map. And then when you have a quest objective up here, which will update quite frequently while you're playing, that's where you want to be able to see that. So M for map. I like to use Q for quest. Now, if you're playing with WASD, you might want to use Q and E for interact and buttons like that. Remember that when you get into the quest interface, you need to select the zone. Like, for example, we can see here's 2 of the quests we completed in the House Gundarak Enclave, or the Keep of the Borderlands, all the things we have still open, or Korthos Island, or where we are right now. We're in the marketplace. We have 2, Red Fang the Unruled was the last quest we did. Q for quest. You're going to do that often. You're going to pick quest and figure out where to go by the highlighting on your map. All right. Another one you're going to use quite often is I for inventory. It could be B. If you're used to B for open all bags or World of Warcraft, that you could just bind it to I or B. Depends if you play Path of Exile. A lot of games over all these years or 30 years of games have used I for inventory. So bind a key, your favorite key, to inventory. You do need to keybind a character. And the reason why you want to do that is sometimes you're going to look like, for example, I was in the Red Fang dungeon, got hit with a lance of poison like a dummy. I got my strength dropped all the way to 0, and I was unable to attack because I had 0 strength. I could still walk around really slow. I could track my stats, right? You can also take a look and see, okay, my dexterity bonus is +6. If I put on a piece of gear that gets that to level to 23 dex, does it give me the additional bonus I'm looking for, or should I look for another stat? Okay. Lastly, you're going to want to be able to use your character interface to control your enhancement. So when you go down to the menu and you get these little pips in your experience down here and you gain an enhancement as you apply points, the ones that are square are actives. See, this one's this ability here, which is like a frontal cone area effect ability shot. And I've got an imbued frost arrows turned on right now. These other ones are passives. So when you are applying I don't have any action points now, but every time you gain a pip, you get a point to apply basically into a talent tree. That's really what's going on here. You can escape to kill that, hit C to open your character sheet, and then under enhancement, right? This is where the actives are, and here's the passives. So you can pay attention to these kinds of things. Say, interesting. I have +1 to hit with long swords, rapiers, scimitars, short bows, and long bows, right? And +2 to damage with falchions. But it doesn't say I have +1 to hit with falchions. I do more damage. Or you see this soul magic, right? Every time I hit in with my bow, 50% chance to gain 10 temporary spell points that last for 1 minute. That's going to be really great because I'm playing kind of a half-ass arcane archer. So you're going to want to have C bound to something. So you'll be in situations where you're doing this and you're taking an ability. You want to take this, you want to lift it and click it and drag it and put it on your bar somewhere, or you want to move this one over here. So that's how you're going to access like your spell book if you played World of Warcraft or EverQuest, or if you memorize your abilities. So you want to bind a key to C. Lastly, I've said this a moment ago, I bind F12 to mount because I use the arrow keys on my keyboard. I use forward for forward, back, down arrow for back. I use the left arrow for strafe left, the right arrow for straight right. I use the right control key to jump. And that gives me access to insert, home, page up, page down, end, delete, home 7 on the number pad 4, number pad 1 on number pad 2, on number pad 3, on the number pad insert, backspace, all within quick reach and auto run with backslash. So that's the way I like to play if I have a lot more room for my fingers to move around. But You definitely want to make sure you bind a key that you can access relatively quickly. And remember, when you're mounting, you don't have to stand still. So it's not like you're going to interrupt the cast of mounting your horse by moving. Targeting. This is something I think is really important. I strongly encourage you not to play with the World of Warcraft camera. Let's turn that on. So this is like in EverQuest where you hold down the right mouse button and then you can turn with the mouse, right? So you don't want to be in a situation where you're pressing a tab target button or you're trying to click on somebody to get the target down here and then go up to try to attack and then try to click the buttons. You really want to use keybinds. And the best way to do that is to use the action camera. By having the action camera, then you can do things like, okay, I want to dismount and mount while I'm running. I'm actually auto running. I'm not touching my keyboard at all right now. I can press my, press one of my abilities. I can dismount, start using shots, doing this, take a potion, strength, search everything you need. So learn to use keybinds. It'll make a big difference. You'll be able to rack so much faster. You aren't going to have 42 abilities on your bar. You're not going to be playing whack-a-mole like in World of Warcraft where you're trying to cast your 18 different types of heals as a druid and things like that. So when it comes to aiming and targeting, I highly recommend you use the action camera. If you find a hard target, like for example, if you have an NPC summoned, you want to click on them to get that hard target to make sure they cast spells on you. Let's talk about attacking, stationary versus moving. So we mentioned this in one of our videos before. Right now we've got this longbow, right? And so we have bonus plus 15 to hit total because of our level, base attack bonus, dexterity, all that fun stuff, right? When you start moving, that drops down to 11, right? That's dropping down to 11. Now, why is it doing that? Because they want you to kind of take in consideration that movement is going to make it harder for you to hit. And that affects melee. I don't know if it affects spells, but it definitely affects ranged attacks. In Lord of the Rings Online, also developed by Standing Stone Games, they have an option for you to turn that off. Because in Lord of the Rings Online, if you're strafing or circle strafing, you have a less chance to hit. But they don't have this option in DDO. So one thing you'll find is that you may want to start fighting, just pull up for a second and shoot or stand still and attack. You don't need to stand still all the time. You can still move around. And of course, if you want to dodge, you have to be moving. If I press the dodge button, it's block. So the block button becomes a tumble, which has a resource that gets used and used up. So that's really important. So think about, oh God, you may see situations in some of the videos where I'm kiting some of the enemies, like in Archer Point, because I'm trying to get them. This is an EverQuest 2 Bard thing. EverQuest 1 Bard is I'm trying to get all 12 of the enemies to kind of line up in a straight line. Because you'll notice, and we'll talk about this as one of our other tips, is that the enemies like to jostle position as they're approaching you, so you can't just focus fire one after the other like dominoes. If you ever played Lost Ark, you know what it's like to see enemies come running in a straight line. You just go boom, 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 and it's not challenging at all. They did a really good job of making sure that the enemies are shuffling and moving and changing positions as they're attacking without slowing down, and as they get towards you, they start surrounding you. And we could jump ahead and go ahead and talk about that one too. The enemy AI is actually quite good. I mean, casters will pull up and cast spells. They'll debuff you. They aren't doing random stuff. They aren't going to start trying to heal their allies. They're trying to kill you. They'll get within range of you and start nuking. They won't advance too close. So they won't start meleeing. Even if you run up close to them, they're going to still keep casting. So the enemy AI is actually quite good for a game that's 20 years old, and you're running around with action camera and you're shooting or meleeing and taking potions or casting spells. The enemies are going to get all around you and move everywhere. Especially the kobolds. You'll notice that they're always jumping onto geometry or they're trying to spin around behind you. That's making you aim and pay attention. Like, what it's like to play World of Warcraft and be in a raid where you have to just stand still and just press your nuke buttons and do your rotation and pop your trinkets at the right time. So in this situation, when you're playing these dungeons, even against low-level enemies, you're going to have to actively move around, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, I need to find a good time to move, then pull up and get my max bonus to hit. And so all these types of things are running through your mind as you're fighting. It actually makes it a lot more cool. When you're thinking about putting gear on your character, I can't stress enough how important it is to first and foremost get the armor class up. Everything revolves around being hit around the armor class and the base attack bonus. So as you play harder and harder content, things are going to have a higher base attack bonus. So they're going to roll a d20 and they're going to have a bonus. Right now, mine's like plus 15 with this bow. When you get much higher level, this number is going to get really, really big. You're going to have to keep trying to boost your armor class. If you hover over it, as you can see here, I have 0% chance to dodge, but my defense at this level against other level, 4 mobs or enemies is 51%. And that's if I got more armor class, like for example, my warrior who's like level 8 and he's like 59 or something armor class, he gets missed constantly. And a shield will make a big difference on that as well. So armor class always a number one priority, especially on the body armor. That's the main place you're going to get it. You might also get some deflection bonus and armor class bonuses from like rings and jewelry. That's always going to come in handy. But try to get the best. You see, even when I was getting loot on some of the quests I was doing, I'm really looking for the best armor class number possible. And when you're determining that on a piece of gear, don't be freaked out by spell failure or armor check penalty that much. Just look at the armor bonus and the armor bonus with dexterity. Obviously, if you can get something that's going to give you a high armor class that doesn't have a dexterity penalty, that's perfect. But unless you specialize in the armor type that and don't have a proficiency in it, that will make it trickier for you. Spell points is something else to think about. It's in essence it's like mana, but the different abilities you have, even for this character, like for example, this Frost Air, it costs 20 spell points to activate this, and this Elemental Inferno costs 6 spell points. So when you've got an NPC hireling, or if you're playing a healer or a druid or a character class that casts magical spells, every spell costs spell points. So resting at a shrine will build that back up. But it's an economy, right? You can't just infinitely cast Cure Moderate Wounds. You will eventually run out of mana, which the game doesn't have mana. In the original version of D&D, you would memorize the same spell multiple times in multiple slots. So they did a good job of using this spell point system, which is in some ways allows you to cast any one of the spells memorized multiple times without being removed from your memory, like the Venetian spell system that Gygax had, but it gives you an economy to think about it. So you really want to be like, I don't really need to cast this now. It's okay. I don't need to spam it. It's really fun to play a melee and a range class because you don't have to worry about that. Like the spell points for the ranger here playing arcane archers just for some special abilities from time to time. I have a necromancer I've been playing in the background who's been a riot. Totally fun to play, but it's a completely different style of gameplay. It's much more challenging. Resting with hirelings. Boy, this is a good one. You find this out the hard way. So we all know that when you get to a restaurant in a dungeon, that you're gonna click on it and you're gonna sit down, and it's gonna be like 15 seconds of your character sitting down, and you can click on the restaurant as well, and you can click on your hireling and say, use this item, right? You can tell them to open doors. You can tell them to pick up your death shard if you die. You can tell them to move. All kinds of things you can tell them to do. Tell them to stay. If you have them interact with a restaurant, and if you move at all, like get up or something like that, or take one step to the left, they'll immediately get up and think you're leaving, right? So you'll interrupt them. And I had situations when I was doing Archer Point where things were getting close to the timer was running out. Everyone was really damaged. Use a rest shrine. Finally got my cleric to Pathfinder over there and start using it. And then I turned to the left and just spun around, like naturally looking around as an old PvP skill and make sure no one's flanking us. And boom, she didn't get all her spell points back, and it really compromised how well we did for the rest of the run. So that's like number 9. Number 10. So the difficulty levels are great. I always like to try and at least do it the first time at the skill level that I'm at. For my level, like level 4, right now he's level 4 ranger, not that big of a deal. If you do it at the most casual level, the rewards aren't going to be as good. It's not going to be as challenging. Just do it at the level that you're at first, and then start trying harder and harder levels. You'll get better experience, and you also get like a bonus for the first time that you've ever completed it. So the difficulties are casual, normal, which is supposed to be for a party, but you and a hireling are just fine. Hard is usually a level or 2 higher than you. Then there's epic, and then there's Reaper. I haven't even touched the Reaper yet. That would be a whole video series, but only after I get the experience at it. The enhancements, we did see that before, right? And the best way to access the enhancements is not the tab on your character sheet. The tab on the character sheet is only going to show what you've already taken. So what you want to do is come down to this lower left-hand corner where the menu is. Remember, if you ever played EverQuest 2, this is where their menu is as well. And then click on the enhancements. And these are point-based, and you can reset them by just paying platinum. So you're not stuck in this forever. So you may find a situation where like, well, I need 2 points to get this ability, but I want to spend a point now to grab this to spend it on something useful, and then just respec it and pull the points out and just do it later. So don't be afraid to mess around with this. Of course, with a game like this that's been around for so long with so many interesting subclasses. I mean, there must be like 90 total classes or ways to play, not even to mention the fact that you can multi-class, and not even to mention the fact they have a reincarnation system. You can find really interesting builds, and I feel sure there's websites that have very powerful builds if you really want to go down that route. If you don't want to go that route and just have fun, don't worry that you'll make some kind of a character that will just be garbage, right? A lot of games, even ESO, will have situations where if you pick the wrong stuff, it's not going to be very effective. And we all know that Path of Exile is that way as well. Diablo 4, not so much. World of Warcraft, not so much. But for this game, you're not really going to have a problem with your character build. You're just picking feats, you're picking abilities, you use them infrequently. They don't make or break you. Your core class is where all your abilities are. Just get good gear, make good decisions, and play intelligently. You'll be just fine. So the enhancements are really, really interesting. You can just reset them for platinum. Number 12, leveling up spells. This is a really key one. In one of our videos, when we turned level 4, we made a big mistake, right? We ran excitedly over to the ranger trainer, and we put another point in dexterity, right? Even though we got a spell, I was like, hey, this is great. I want to be able to use Long Strider, right? Of all the spells available, I couldn't wait to get Long Strider, where I'd have a 9-minute, 15% movement buff, and little pools of shallow water wouldn't slow me down. I was like, hey, that's great. I'll just zip around fast. This will be wonderful, because you can outrun the enemies, right? You can just run away from them, and you can even kite them away. And using a bow, kiting sounds good, right? Well, wisdom's too low. So as you can see here in the stats, the wisdom is only 10. So I got to get a piece of gear. It's one of the comments from one of the other videos. Get a piece of gear, you'll be fine. Got to get a piece of gear to give me +1 to wisdom, and then I can cast a spell. So when you're playing a cleric or druid or a ranger, those are kinds of things to think about. But if you're playing a druid or a cleric, you're going to have a lot of points in wisdom. So a weird hybrid like a ranger, really needs to be thinking about that in the future. It's the same thing with intelligence. Like, intelligence is going to determine how many points you get and things like that later on. All right, so let's moving on. So we got wisdom for casting. That's number 13. Number 14, hirelings. So the key thing, I think, to learn with the hirelings is, you've seen it in some of the videos, is the stay and warp ability. As you get into harder and harder content, just having them on auto attack all the time, wigging out and running over and smashing crap will get them killed. And it'll also just have them waste their points healing themselves. You may see in one of the Archer point missions I did on a really hard skill level that the cleric was just bogged down trying to spam heal herself while 7 or 8 guys had her swarmed. The stay and warp is great for all the traps. If you want to go back and watch a different video, watch the Red Fang the Unruled video. It just came out on like the 14th of this week, and that one shows example what happens when you get a lot of poison on you and how do you deal with it, right? And all the traps that are happening. And healing. Be sure that if you're going to have a hireling and they're going to heal you, that you've targeted yourself to heal yourself first. So their little bar, which you've seen in all the videos I've been doing, be sure you have the right target, and be sure you're in range. Because if you're out of range, the spell will be used on themselves, and you'll waste the spell points. If you are not targeted, the spell will be used themselves, and you'll waste the spell points. And if you're playing harder and harder content, you don't want to waste. The cooldowns aren't really long. That's not that big of a deal, but you don't want to waste those spell points. That's pretty important. So hireling control is really important. They're really good, though. I really enjoy the fact that I can run adventures with different hirelings. Some I want to have range, some will have a wizard, some will have a healer. I just love having the clerics because they have a shield and they have good armor class, and they have good cures and heals. So be sure to pick ones that work good for your playstyle. You might play a healer and pick a DPSer to be your hireling. All right, so potions and cooldowns and spending. So the cooldown on chugging potions is really, really low. I mean, it doesn't take long at all. And if you need to heal yourself really quickly, let's see what we got. Here's some moderate wounds. Here's some light wounds. So let's just put this right here. And we'll stick this here, put this here. I'm not even damaged, and I can drink a potion of healing and waste one. It gave me 9 health, but I'm full health. So you can overdo it and just start wasting potions if you're not careful and not paying attention. But be sure they all look the same. Be sure you pick the right one, so it's hard to tell one from the other at a glance. Are they all blue, red, and you got to memorize which ones are which. So the healing potions can also be done, while you're running around. So what we got here, let's just put this a starter potion of healing, and you could be in a map running around like this and taking damage and try to get away from enemies. Let's get this interface out of the way and just take a potion while you're moving. It doesn't really slow you down. If you're a spellcaster and you get ready to cast spells, it will slow you down. So let's get on our mount. When we're riding along, take a potion while riding on your mount. Right? And there's nothing stopping you from getting on and off your mount if you're being chased by stuff in the Keeper of the Borderlands. And if you're trying to get away, you can shoot your weapon while you're in midair, feather falling, take a potion. I love it. There's a lot of games I play where it's like, oh, you can't do that. It's really annoying. So potions come in handy. They don't cost a lot of money. Pick up all the crap loot you get and just sell it. Okay, clickies. Like in EverQuest 1, there's so many things about DDO I find to be really cool because it's like an awesome interface version of EverQuest 1 that runs good. I'll repeat that. It's like an awesome interface version of EverQuest 1 that runs good, and it probably has just as much content. You can check down here in my bar, right? We've got a pair of boots. One of them's just my regular tumble / striding, and then I got this other pair, which, I put it on, it dismounted me. Now I have expeditious retreat. I put it on myself. It lasts 5 minutes, so now I have a faster movement rate. If I'm not mistaken, and any of you hardcore guys that are checking out my newbie videos want to give me a comment here, stacking movement speeds don't stack. So if I have 5% movement rate from one thing and I put on expeditious retreat, I don't believe that they stack. I think I remember reading that. My speed now is 25%. Let's double check that 100%. It doesn't say anything. So we got the buff on us, and now we've got the other boots, which give us 5% movement room. We're still stuck at 25. So even though I put the other striding boots on, I have expeditious retreat working, it's not moving me any faster. So we can just mount up here real quick. Now our movement rate on our horse is going to be 60 because it's 80%. So it's not going to be, and that may be because I'm VIP, I'm being bonused in the city. All right, let's get back to our list. We're getting off topic. So we got the run speed stuff worked out. We got the clicky items explained. That comes in handy for bracelets and rings, but not body armor. Every time you take body armor off, right, you can immediately take it off, right? But to put it back on, it's going to have a cast time. And if you start equipping it and you move, you will interrupt yourself. So unlike the other stuff, even though I've got cosmetic on right now, you need to stand still for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's about 9 seconds to equip the piece of gear. I think that's great because that's where the armor class number is mostly coming from, and they don't want people cheesing combat by switching armor sets. Excuse me. For example, imagine you had one armor, body armor set that had all these DPS bonuses, and then something got in your face. You went, oh, I'll just switch the other piece of armor. Excuse me. It makes sense because who's going to be able to put on a full set of chainmail, the padding, and everything else while they're in the middle of a combat fight? Okay, great. Another detail here is weapon sets. I found them to be extremely useful. There's no limit to how many you could possibly have here. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 3. That's 15 possible pre-bound weapon sets. So I've got one set here to my bow and then my dual wield setup. My warrior, I have one that's two-handed and a sword and shield. You could have one with like a wand if you're playing a caster, wand, scepter and shield, two-handed staff, all kinds of things like that. So how do you do it? We did it in the first video. You equip the items first that you want, right? And then pick the item up with the left mouse button, drag it, and put it in one of these green slots, and it becomes a weapon slot. And now drag that to your bar somewhere and do the same thing for the other set. So say you have the 2 melee weapons on, pick the first weapon up, put it down, take the second offhand weapon that's on the right hand side and put it on top of it. That will change this. You can see there's 2 pictures here, and then you can move that down to your bar, and you can just click to switch weapons, but I bind a key to it. So I use my number pad keys for infrequent weapon changes. That's really simple how you do that. When you get rid of it, drag it off your bar. You can also take these and just drag them into nothingness and they're gone. So the weapon swap system is really, really cool. You may find situations where like I'm looking for traps. I want to disable traps. Let me put my gloves, boot, ring, necklace, and my disable trap then goes to the roof, and then I switch it back out. You can do that kind of stuff. Or you may have a really great weapon set for a certain type of enemy that you really want to use, etc. All right, so binding keys to that. Like I mentioned before, you don't need to have a lot of keys bound to play the game until things get much, much more advanced. But bind keys to those basics like block, which is also going to be tumble, which is also going to be dismounting. You know, attacking is not going to be an auto attack. You want to press and hold to do that. You're going to be able to interact with doors and things just by running up to it and pressing the left mouse button. But bind keys to everything you need, especially you may not need to bind it to clickies. You may want to just do that every now and then. But that's a real critical thing. To get good at playing something, you need to have that real fast control because you're going to be aiming and targeting, whether you're casting spells or you're going to be clicking from time to time and you're going to be clicking on someone to heal. So just get really good at knowing which key bindings are going to do which ability. If you become a pure clicky person, you'll be okay, but there'll be times where like, wow, I got hit 4 or 5 times because I was trying to click on something. I got nervous and I misclicked and I dragged the button off the bar. Of course, you can lock the hot bars, but most of the time they don't accidentally drag off unless you really left click and hold and move. Okay, repairing. You know, this is something that's easy to forget. Now, let's go to a vendor. As you get like level 2 and 3 and higher, you go into one of these quests or adventure or an instance or an outdoor wilderness area, and you get hit a few times, you take damage, and some of your stuff will get damaged. You can just come to any vendor most of the time, and the shop will always open on the right, by the way, and click the repair tab, and you have damaged stuff. You want to click add it, and then hit repair and just cost some platinum. It's just a platinum sink. That's a really simple thing to remember. Nothing worse than being in the middle of a dungeon and have your weapon break. That's how I learned about it. I was playing my warrior, bringing him back. He was level 5 at the time. Wanted to play the game, try to familiarize myself with everything. Didn't repair his gear, and then boom, the weapon broke, and I was in the middle of a dungeon. I had to put a crap weapon on. So that's really bad. Another thing with interacting with the vendor is to be sure to mouse over the actual icon, not the words. So you can make this mouse over timing faster if you want to. You can go to options. I think it's in the UI settings. There's a floating text side. I think there's one down here that will control how long the tooltip delay is. Here it is 0.2 seconds, which is like 200 milliseconds. I think that works out pretty well. But when you are in a trade window, mouse over the icon, and you can roll the mouse wheel to scroll while you're over the icons. And you could anywhere in this field, it will scroll. But if you're over here, it won't. It'll just start pulling the mouse up and down. One other thing about being in the trade window is be sure to, if you're in the sell tab, to sell gems. This will sell all the gems you have. And of course, you'll figure out that there's little bags that will hold gems and things like that. But just sell the gems. They're not worth a ton, but they're always inside crates and things like that. So we talked super briefly about the enemy AI. I want to refresh a few points. Oh, that's when a new Dorger. Oh gosh, what level is that guy? 10. That's a cool looking character, isn't it? He looks great. All right, cool. So the enemy AI, as a game director myself, 30 years in the video game industry, can you believe it? Even doing Unreal AI and Unreal 1 and Unreal Tournament, the bot, I learned a lot about AI over the years. Even at Crytek, we had a really, really advanced data-driven AI system. AI is what makes the game fun because it prompts players to move, react, think, etc. Pretty obvious stuff, right? The thing they do really well in DDO, which I haven't seen done well in any other game to tell you the truth, is the aggro radiuses are large and the enemies see you. Sometimes they'll bark and then they start rushing you, and they never, ever, ever just run in a straight line towards you, right? And if you start moving and swerving, they aren't like being kited like the tail of a kite chasing you. They shuffle, they get in front of each other. One of them will pull up to cast. Archers will stay at archer range and shoot you. They only move forward enough to shoot you. Even if 4 or 5 melee are coming at you, they do not bunch. They bunch up, but they don't bunch up in such a way where, let me just pick the first guy off and then I'll pick the second guy off. Now, why is that fun? The reason why it's fun, because you are going to be adjusting your position to adjust your aim. And if you're melee, you're going to get surrounded, and sometimes you don't want them to hit you from behind. It might reduce your armor class. It might even be sneak attacks of some of the rogues. You're going to be positioning yourself in melee. You'll be positioning yourself with ranged attacks. You'll be positioning yourself with spell attacks. You'll be trying to aim and get a shot on something. Things might be in the way. You're going to accidentally hit different enemies at different times you weren't trying to hit. it'll be a fracas, right? It's gonna be crazy, and it's fun because the fight will last longer, and you'll get really good at like, okay, I'm gonna just pop this first guy for the fun of it, but I kind of want to swing around and get this witch doctor in the back. And you hear me talk about those things as I'm playing. So I think the shuffling that they do is really good, and there's a lot of AI where they just wig out. Like the kobolds are hilarious. I mean, there's one of the adventures I did where I went to the kobold cavern in the Keep in the Borderlands, and they all jumped out and they fell in their own pit. It was hilarious. So surrounding you is something they want to do. They want to constantly try to get completely around you at all times. They'll come up here and get in front of you and swing around. And it's like in reality, if you start really playing, you're like, oh God, I don't let these guys get around me. I mean, you can jump to get out of stuff. Just just jump. If they box you in, because they will block you in, you can remove. You can get out of that situation, but you don't want to look like a spastic, right? Just think about, if you're really playing D&D, or if you were really there in real life, how would you make sure these guys don't flank you? You can use their attempt to flank to give you a chance to move and strafe away. They'll still swing around to the original target, and you can shoot them in the back and all kinds of stuff like that. Sneak attack is really cool. If you're playing a rogue, you're going to get it and get additional damage. Give your NPC hireling an opportunity to get in there, and you can get something flat-footed from behind. It's harder to do than I realized. It's not like in Neverwinter. Neverwinter, which was originally a 4th edition game, and then they tried to turn it into a 5th edition. Neverwinter has like this little reverse arrow that points that lets you know when you're being hit kind of from behind, but it's not really that true to the game system. So in this situation, the sneak attack does do the additional damage, just like it says in the rules. So that's really a useful way to do a lot more damage. Deflection bonus is something you'll see on gear. Sometimes you'll see something that says like, oh, you have a ring of protection +1, you got a cloak of protection, and they won't stack. So when you equip a piece of gear, be sure to look down in the general tab and read what the game is telling you after you equip the piece of gear. It may be a situation where, okay, let's take this off and let's put it on, and maybe a situation where if it doesn't stack, it will say blah 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 doesn't work because you already have X, Y, and Z. The aggro radius I mentioned before is pretty big, and it doesn't go down forever. Like, for example, you can play EverQuest 2 and be high level, and mobs just like shrink at you, and they're all gray and they won't do anything. I think in what was the other game I was playing recently? I went back and played Throne of Liberty when their expansion thing came out, and the low level mobs weren't attacking me, if I'm not mistaken. So in D&D, they just see that they're just going to go for it. Like I mean, level 1 kobolds will come after you. If you're on a mountain outdoor space, no problem. You just outrun them. That's not really that big of a deal. So casters are a scary thing in the game, actually, in my opinion. We'll turn these names off. The thing about the casters that are really kind of scary, the NPC ones, is they're going to come to max range and they automatically have a target on you, and they'll just start nuking you. Now, caster damage over time, because it's resource controlled, they're going to hit a bigger hit. So there's one time, if you want to go back and watch me die horribly, or I'm doing the archer point and the casters are just nuking me, I'm just getting destroyed. And so, don't, in the early phase, like levels 1 through 4, things are pretty easy. So, but don't take that for granted, because you start playing a higher and higher level, like up to elite and such like that. Like, it's hard and then epic, not elite. You can get nuked down, and you'll be like, oh gosh, a wake up call. But ranged weapons are further distance than spells. And I tested this thoroughly. Unless someone knows about some trick that I've never heard of before, if you're using a bow and you target something far away, you can shoot just a little bit over their head, or you can just shoot like that, and you'll see them get hit because you'll see the damage number pop up. And so that's something you might want to think about when you're using ranged weapons, right? So line of sight, super important. So when you're running around fighting, and if you get a chance to line of sight something and use a piece of geometry, you can always take a shot at something once, twice, and just swing around the corner because you have your hireling out there. Sometimes you can be shooting and you see a method wind up a spell, and if you can see the animation, you can get out of the way and it won't hit. It'll hit the wall instead. So use that like you would in a shooter to protect yourself. And of course, the damage number from the casters is where the things get really scary. Like witch doctors and clerics and shamans, you tend to be the humanoid types, but fire elementals, they've been nasty. And so remember the next set here, this is like number 24 and 25, the mount and the cloak from the Keep on the Borderlands. It's free. It doesn't take long to get it. The cloak is going to drop off of any of the named guys Feather falling full time is so useful at low levels. Later on, you'll probably end up using it as a clicky, where you've got a great cloak on that's really benefiting your character's power or protecting you, and you're just going to use the feather fall cloak for something else. But in the Keep of the Borderlands itself, you're riding down and going into the valley and always falling into the valley. Even in the town, riding around through the harbor, just jump off the top level and just glide down. It's so gratifying. Be sure to get that. You only need 15 of those feather tokens or whatever the devil they're called to get the mount. Once you got that mount once, it will appear in your mount tab. And like you can see, I didn't know this. My qual feather token, I bought one with another character, and I bought it again with this character. And I realized, like, oh, I didn't need to do that. I didn't realize it was account bound because when I read the wiki article, they didn't make it clear. No, I just got 2 different ones. That's great. But definitely get the mount and the cloak. You can do that at like level 1. I mean, it's not hard at all. I have a video where I'm on foot with this character getting that. Also, if you're playing any class that uses a metal shield, not a druid, a metal shield like a cleric or a fighter, etc., the Keep on the Borderlands has a great shield that will last you all the way to level 8. Its damage bonus and damage resistance is really, really useful. Another thing about the Keep of the Borderlands a lot of people ignore and don't pay attention to, and we did a video when we were out there, is the ethereal weapons and the silver weapons. The ethereal weapons are great. They're going to help you hit, ghosties and liches that you may encounter later. Like later on, there's a mission I played with my level 8 guy where we got smoked by some white lich lord. I mean, all the NPCs died. It was terrible. We got nuked to death. We could hardly hit the guy. And he's like, I had like a +4 weapon, and I had like 53 armor class, and I was getting destroyed. Hard lesson to learn. But that shield is really, really good. But use the ingot crafting system at the NPC at the Keep of the Borderlands. I've got it in the Keep of the Borderlands video. And get yourself a silver weapon. And if you're using 2 different types of weapons or dual wielding, get 2 of them and get a bow. It's basically going to be a +1 enhancement weapon for you when you have nothing until you find the one you want. Like, say, for example, you really want to play with kukris and you've got a rogue and you've specialized in exotic weapons, well, go get 2 of them there, like right away, because you're going to get those not for platinum. You're going to get the ingots you need by doing the named or the rare named enemies in the zone. There's 14 of them. One of them has to be summoned that you're trying to get for the cloak anyway, and to get them out. So you're triple dipping in progress by doing that. And of course, the shield is always useful. Let's see here. The outdoor enemies. Okay, so 28. The Keep of the Borderlands, we spent a lot of time out there. You don't get experience killing enemies. You get experience for completing quests. You don't get experience for disabling traps. You don't get experience for finding secret doors, but if you could go into the room behind the secret door, you can sometimes get a discovery bonus. Or if you kill a monster that's concealed behind a secret door, you'll get like, oh, you killed this named monster. You get a bonus to your experience. So doing everything is the best way to go. But unlike all the other grindy MMOs, I mean, I can't think of a single MMO that's so quest-centric as this one is. I mean, even EverQuest, you can go grind and kill enemies. You're going through dungeons in that game, and you're just camping a spawn. You're not really doing any quests hardly at all half the time. Okay, so now we're talking about leveling. Look at the pips, right? And we talked about this before. They're called ranks, technically, and each experience bar is how much you need to get to the next rank. So I'm level 4 and 1, 2, 3 ranks. So to get to rank 4 of level 4, the 4th pip, I'm at 65,600. I have 64,000 of 65,000. So I only need this little left bit right here. It's about what, 1,000, 1,500 experience at the most to get to the next. That's probably one good long big quest, and I got to the next pip. Every time you get a pip, don't forget. Then you get an hint. You get an action point. They should just call it a. They should just call it an enhancement point. You get an action point that you can then apply in here. And of course, you can reset them like we talked about earlier. So be sure to forget killing outdoor enemies unless you just want to have fun. They're going to be level 1 until you complete the whole zone a bunch of times. So that explains the pip system with the 5 ranks and the action points you need. Experience loss. So in the adventure before last, the other day, today, which one was it? There was a 3-part series with the guy in the harbor, right? And we had to go like protect a crate against a bunch of kobolds, and then we had to go run around and destroy all the property in a warehouse, and then we had to go recover something from the same warehouse. We got all the way to the end to get the item, and then there was a trap at the end that hit for like 75, 55, 55, 75 damage, just killed me. Boom, one shot, dead. I was laughing out loud. It was so hilarious. It scared the crap out of me. No experience lost, right? So be sure to check that video out near the end. Just scrub to the end so you can see how to use your hireling to resurrect you. Because when you die, you leave a sigil on the ground, right? It's kind of unusual. It's not like Ultima Online where you run as a ghost to a shrine. You will be in a ghost form. You can run around. You can still jump and climb, but you won't be able to open any doors, right? So you won't be able to interact with objects. Nothing will attack you, but watch that video because the hireling will still follow me. So I tell the hireling, I target the sigil on the ground, tell the hireling to pick it up, and I run around and guided the hireling all the way to the room where the rest shrine was, and the resurrection shrine, and then had the hireling open the door by targeting the door and say use, had him kill the junk that was in the way, run up to the shrine, boom, instantly resurrected. It's the same thing with your hirelings. When they die, pick up this goofy looking sigil. It's pretty huge, actually. It looks like a piece of modern art or something that falls on the ground, stick in your inventory. If you're playing with your husband or your wife or your girlfriend or your friend or your buddy, your roommate or whatever, your coworkers, just don't play with your boss. If you're playing with people that you know and they die, don't be like, oh, how do I resurrect you? Like, it isn't like that. So you're going to pick up that sigil that's left behind and take it to a shrine. I don't know if it's tradable. Like, I don't know if you can give it to someone else, but that's how you get resurrected. You will see buttons on the top of that video in the right-hand corner where it says, oh, use a birthday cake or buy some points to shards to resurrect instantly. Like, don't do that. Just go to the shrine the hardcore way. It'll make you appreciate the death mechanic, which is a loss of time and inconvenience to get you resurrected. Side note here, back in my AD&D campaigns, there's a reason why there was system shock and resurrection survival in the game. When someone in our party would die, we didn't roll a new character. We would take their body to a priest or a portion of their body and take them to the priest and have them spend, tithes to them and help them and do what we needed to do to get them to resurrect our party member. So in some ways, the way they've implemented it in this game kind of feels like that. You got to put some effort into getting to a shrine to get yourself resurrected. Okay, one thing you will see that someone may notice is I wasn't using my daily dice on this character. I was using it on another character. Where that is in the interface down here. There's this thing called the daily dice. If you're a VIP, once a week you can roll one of these gold ones, and these are the rewards. So it's a D100, right? Two 10-sided dice. Let's just roll one right now. This is the weekly one. You roll it. The number, I got 5,000 experience points for superior experience elixir. This is an item. That was a great roll, huh? This is an item that will put it in your inventory. So go to our first bag. Here it is right here. This is dodecahedron, which is a 20-sided die. So I could take this and give it to another character if I have VIP on my account and boost their level really, really, really quickly. So to use it, you just double click it. So we're just going to use this here. This will grant me enough experience to go to level 4, blah, blah, and to reach level 5. All right, great. That's awesome. So how much experience do we get? We also get to do a silver every day. Everyone gets to do a silver every day. Let's do this one real quick. Oh, we didn't have any shards because we did the silver earlier with my little necromancer guy I've been playing. He's hilarious. No, I'm not going to buy more shards. Oh, let's talk about the DDO store. And I'm skipping ahead of my list here a little bit, but the DDO store, I bind a key to it so I can check it out real quick to see if there's anything free or on sale or codes. On the launcher and on their website, they're really, really good at giving stuff away all the time. Like there's a code for this week. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but even in the patch notes that says like tomorrow's downtime and the day before, and there's a sale happening through the 16th, you'll see this little all caps code. You can go to the store, apply the code, and get the free thing. And they're doing that apparently every week. If that's not the case, someone correct me. But what I saw was a weekly code reward. I think it's a pretty smart system because it allows someone to go through here and redeem a code at the bottom. I don't think I have anything down here. Yeah, there it is. The other late night bell, right? Let's just put that in here and redeem it. A bell of opening. This is the item. Coupon activated. Let's go here. Here it is right here. What does this do? Okay. It allows us to cast knock. Unlocks any lock that can be picked sufficiently by a skilled rogue, caster level 999. Does it have any charges? It's worth 5,000 platinum. So this is awesome, right? Imagine all the times you run through a dungeon not playing a thief, and there's these thief-centric um, chests that you can never ever open. There's no reason to put a point into thief. You could use this. Sometimes knock will destroy a chest, so I can't wait to try to use that. Now I've got that on this slot here. I'll bind a key to it. So as you can see, these kinds of codes they're really useful. Usually they're account wide. So let's try. If I had another character online, I would try it. But check for that. I mean, they're very very good at updating their website. I mean, it's being updated with cool screenshots and things that are going on. You can hear about the patch notes. I was very surprised to see they update their content more often than Black Desert Online did, and they have an army of people working on that game. Okay, so the daily dice thing is fantastic. If you're VIP, you're going to get to do the gold one once a week, and the silver ones are every day. You never know what you're going to get, the experience boost and stuff like that. That's fantastic. So take advantage of that. Let's see, completing a quest. Okay, this is another interesting point. You know, we have casual, normal, hard. You get like a 20% bonus the first time you complete it. And when you get to an elite difficulty, it's like a 45% bonus the first time you complete it. Usually, no matter what level you are, I believe the elite level will be higher, but it could be based upon the original level of the dungeon. That part we'll need to confirm. I'm pretty sure that's how it's set up. So if you are in a dungeon and you're doing an adventure and you go, oh, I need to go out and go grab something on my bank, or I need to go buy some more potions, you get like a 20% experience penalty for doing that. And I think that's a fair thing to do because it's kind of like failing. If you die and you hit recall and you get resurrected back in the inn, which is not in the instance anymore, you're going to lose that experience bonus. But hey, you take that in consideration. You might be, I really want to complete this quest to get the chest. I don't really care about the experience penalty. It may not be that big of a deal. If you repeat an adventure on the same skill level, it will have like a 20% decreasing amount that it rewards you. I think that caps out after a little while. Like say you got 2,000 experience for, an elite archer point thing, and then the next time it's maybe 20% less, which would be like 400 less down to 1,600, and it might get lower and lower and lower. You may be balancing the experience gain versus the opportunity to open the 3 chests or the chests that are in there. So think about that, for example. I like the 2-box. It's really, really fun. It's completely legal. You have to use a third-party program to use a follow mode. There's no basic follow in the game. That deserves a whole video into itself. I think it's called like Dungeon Helper or something. There are a number of add-ons that allow you to like access all the bank space for all your individual characters. I think it's called, it had a funny name the other day. A Russian guy had a video that talked about it. I forgot the name of it. It was really useful as well. But let's talk about parties, right? Imagine if you have another friend playing with you, even if they're not very good at playing the game, their NPC, their hireling is so beneficial for you. And you do get some bonuses for playing with people, but you want to keep the level ranges close, right? And so when there's like a 4-level difference, I believe it's about a 50% bonus. This is all in the DDO wiki. If there's 5-level difference, it's a 75% penalty, not a bonus. I misspoke. 6, it's like 87.5, and if there's 7 levels difference, it's even worse. So you want to, if you have like a level 7 and a level 8 together, you're going to be okay. One thing I haven't tested is imagine you go into an adventure that's really really hard, and your high level character goes almost all the way to the end, but not the last room, but clears everything. And then your character goes to that spot, and then the high level character leaves the dungeon and leaves the party. Does that still give you the penalty? I bet it does. But those kinds of exploits, is it really worth doing that? It's probably not even worth. Just play the game and have a good time. It's more about having fun than winning, right? You're not winning anything. But if you go through one of their quests and adventures and you never die, you get like a flawless victory Mortal Kombat bonus. I think that's around 10% if you get that. And so remember, number 36 now, you get this penalty for re-entering by leaving and coming back in, not repeating the adventure. You get a 10% bonus for like movement speeds in the cities and mount speeds and experience bonus. If you're VIP, it's really, really useful. I think all the VIP stuff gives you access to a number of the quest lines. It would never be available for a completely free-to-play player, just like Lord of the Rings Online, because the game originally was just a subscription-based MMO. People that had the original game and had a subscription get graduated up to a premium level, right? Like if you download the game today, never played before, you're just free-to-play player. If you played it a long time ago and had a copy of the game, you bought the box copy, now you're going to be a premium player. If you're VIP, you're paying like a monthly subscription for all the bonuses. Go to the DDO website and just look about VIP. It'll explain everything you need to know about that completely. Okay, so what else we got on our list here? The DDO wiki, really, really good, really clean, well maintained, tons of details, hyperlinked. I try not to go read it. I think it's fun to go to um, some of the guides I made. Like I've already done the dungeon like that day in another character, so I remember everything, but I don't remember exactly. So it still feels like you're really doing it for the first time. But sometimes doing stuff completely in the dark is a lot of fun because you have to actually think more. Remember going back to newbie tips in Korthos, that starter potions, those starter healing potions you can get over there, they heal more than a regular cure light wounds potion. So this one here, cure light wounds, 1d6 plus 2, right? And then what is this one? The starter one, 1d6 plus 2. So maybe they changed that. It used to be that the starter one over in Korthos, this might be one I picked up from there too. The one cell in the vendor isn't as much healing, but they're really cheap. Keep tons of those on you. You might get like a 12-point heal out of it. Gear is level based, so but it's shared across your account. So if you're playing, we'll pop into the bank real quick. Say you're playing and you keep, wow, I keep getting all this cool caster gear. I was always thinking about playing a wizard or a sorcerer or something else. Don't be afraid to go bank that stuff. It's not like you're going to pick up loot. A crazy character. What the devil? Okay. You're not going to get a bunch of crazy loot that you can't ever use or you can't trade or is class specific and all that kind of stuff. So when you open your character bank, um, it's going to open the shared bank, and here's my inventory. Let's close that. So the shared one is all the things from all my other characters I've vomited into here, just in case. There's 2 pages of it, a maximum of 35 items. That hey, I got this item here. Like we talked about earlier, there was a charisma item I had that I wanted to save. This one was it. This one? No, this is this one. Is it this one? And here's an augment. That augment, I'll share that with another character, and we'll go back here to the first page again. And let's see here. Let's put these tokens in here. We've got 21 of these. Might get another color bound at some point and go up to the top. So be sure to save the stuff because, you may want to liquidate it at some point to sell it. You can see which things at a glance you can use. Like red stuff is, higher level than you. I've got some pieces of gear I've saved from other characters. That's a kind of a fun thing to do is when you're playing, anytime you see a piece of loot, you're like, I might use that on another character. Just save it. It's really come in handy when doing this stuff because the gear is level based and it's shared across your account. I believe only if you equip it does it become like character bound. This is one of the new mounts for the Terror Demogorgon pre-purchase that someone did at the higher level. I believe that's what that is. All right, we'll just look at that for a minute. What else we got? We got number 40. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, so don't play the game in a linear way. Do whatever you want to do. Run up to an NPC, pick up a quest, go figure it out, go run it. There's no reason for you to go from here to here to here to here. You're not really going to miss out any major storyline. It's not going to be like the main story quests like in Final Fantasy 14. I mean, you have to do the MSQ in Final Fantasy 14 in the order to unlock all the dungeons and to do everything. It's just dialogue after dialogue. It just goes on and on and on. This is like D&D. You do what you want to do. Go try something really, really hard. Play with a friend and do something really easy and help them gear up. I mean, have fun playing it. You don't need to play things in linear. Just because you run forward and you're in the harbor doesn't mean you can't skip over to the marketplace or the Kundarak place like I did and do something different and mix it up some. Okay, that's a really fun way to play. I mean, remember, you're you're going to get most experience for completing a quest, which is a series of objectives, usually in an instance where everything you do stacks up to the bonus. Yes, there'll be a number of loot chests in there, and there's usually a final reward that you pick from a list. And so doing something over and over again, you get experience, and then it starts tapering off. Well, I'm doing it now because I want to see if I can get another piece of gear because this is all level 4 loot. All right, but when you're running through all the adventures, you basically have 3 types of basic mechanics for blockers, or 4. 1, levers, right? Levers, dials, go into them and click them, they open a gate, they open a door, they open something farther away. There are some situations early on where like the ice will crack and fall down if you hit a gong. You'll see sometimes like, okay, here's a doorway with a blue and a red and a green little unlit gem. Well, I got to go find the levers that also have the corresponding colored gem. It's a little gamified, a little goofy, but you need to run through the adventure, and there's a reason to go to other areas. It's not just run around and kill enemies. You're trying to progress and get to a new area. And the secret doors, gosh, I can't stress enough how much more rewarding things are if you've got a good search skill. Put points into it, even though it's intelligence. Even just by putting points into it, you'll do great finding things. So you'll be looking for runes, and you'll be looking for these illuminated colored jewels over doorways. There are situations where there'll be like a door that's locked, and you can tell it needs a key. And usually the dungeon master will tell you what color key, or the description of the door will tell you. The key will be in there somewhere. Sometimes it's lying on the ground in filth. Sometimes it'll drop from an enemy. Only in a rare situation, like in one of the, what was the quest that we did that was in Korthos Island? There was one that we did in Korthos. We can look at it here that had, it was either Necromancer's Doom or Redemption. I think it was Necromancer's Doom, where you killed this guy and he just dropped a key, but you didn't actually drop a key. It was just, you were just told by the dungeon master you got a key, and that opened the door. But those things are weird. Like, they're not very often. Mostly everything is extremely consistent with the mechanics, right? Traps. If you want to see someone die horribly to traps, you should check out my Red Fang video. If you want to watch someone outsmart all the traps, watch my altar one, right? So the traps are great. They're nasty. They allow them to debuff your abilities. Be sure you have potions, all right? Potions to neutralize poison, restoration potions, besides healing, because when your stats get dropped, if your stats get dropped to 0, you can't attack anymore. If it drops down to 3, 2, and 1, you got all these penalties, and you may not be able to pick up any loot or inventory. You may not be able to run fast, so that's really, really important. Be sure to turn that experimental tumble key on. I believe it's in gameplay options. I'll see if I can find it again. It's been about, 5 days since I looked it up. Here it is, experimental tumble controls. And you've seen this before in games where you dodge roll, right? It only works when, like I said earlier, when you are moving. If you're not moving, it doesn't do anything. If you don't have the resource, you're gonna stop and you're gonna block. Down here, a lot of times it's going to start in the game up in the corner is the little pip counter. I've seen some people in their videos where people have like 6 of these things. So that's a really, really cool thing to use. Turning cooldown timers is great on the interface as well. And when the settings turn those on, you can see how long it takes to get to the next, to cast the ability again. I have yet to see anything in the game that has like a cast once per day. Everything's a pretty short cooldown timer. Actives versus passive. When you're picking your abilities for your character or your skills, you find some things are passive, like these are passives because they're all octagonal. Some things are actives, or like for example these enhancements, these are all passives, they're all octagon shaped, and these are all active. So you don't really drag a passive and put it on your bar, but you can drag actives and put those on your bar. Very straightforward. The VIP thing we talked about previously, it gives you access to a lot of the different character classes and races that you wouldn't normally ever have. That's really up to you. The shared bank space is just absolutely great. It comes with VIP for nothing. If you're just a free-to-play player, you won't be able to share stuff between characters. One other quick point. We're at number 48. 2 more to go. Quest update at any time for any reason. You had no idea why it was going to happen. So unlike Diablo or Path of Exile or some of the other games you play, World of Warcraft, EverQuest 1, Star Wars, the Old Republic, a lot of these other games, we used to call them theme park MMOs. They tell you step by step what to do, or they'll show you exactly the one thing to do next, or even ESO, where you can only have one active pip on your map. Go here, this one thing, talk to this elf, that kind of junk. You can be run through one of these instances and open up a secret door, and a new objective will pop up that shows you need to complete something in this area, or you'll be counting down how many crates you smash, and then you find a room with a named mob, and it'll say you've killed one of 3 of them. And watch that space; it's going to be up here. You can move it around to wherever you want it to be, but when you don't know what to do and you're in one of these quests, you can always go back to your quest description, but usually it's going to give you the overall goofy summary you got when you picked it up. It's not going to tell you what to do now, right? That doesn't update. The interface in the game that you can move around, that's the one that updates. Get used to thinking that way. because there'll be a lot of times you'll be tipped off about something that, oh, I didn't know I could do this. Let me go do this now because you'll get more experience and then you'll level your character up faster. We talked about codes earlier. That was number 49. And I think we talked about potions. Yes, neutralize poison and restoration. Those are just so useful, right? Especially with things that will debuff your stats. And when your stats get debuffed, it'll say you need to rest at a rest shrine or at an inn. Well, if you've got those restoration potions, you get rid of that. That is 50 things that we learned in the last 5 or 6 days with our new characters as we return back to DDO. If you've got any that I missed, add them as a comment below. And once again, we'll see you out there at the next adventure. Take care.